Laura Smith perched on the edge of the bed in her cramped cell, a place that had imprisoned her body and soul for the last decade. The morning sunlight trickled through the iron bars, painting flickering shadows on the cold, unforgiving concrete floor. Her heart raced with a cacophony of emotions as she scanned the room one final time. Every inch of that cell was steeped in agony, yet strangely, it also held pockets of unexpected comfort. Her thoughts drifted to Elena, the compassionate older woman who had not only saved her life but had also become her guiding light and confidant. On this fateful day, Laura was overwhelmed by a whirlwind of exhilaration and trepidation. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. The long-dreaded yet eagerly anticipated moment of liberation had arrived. She was about to step into a world that had spun on without her, evolving in ways she could barely imagine. The stark reality of her impending freedom weighed heavily on her mind. With only a few personal items to her name, she packed a small bag and made her way toward the cell door. She was dressed in the same modest white shirt and frayed jeans she had worn when she first entered this grim fortress of despair. Each deliberate step resonated through the icy corridors of the prison, drawing the curious and envious stares of her fellow inmates. As she walked, memories of her incarceration flooded back, each footfall a reminder of her suffering and survival. The anticipation of freedom was a powerful blend of hope and fear, tearing at her heart. Laura's pulse quickened, her breath shallow, as she approached the threshold of a new life. The outside world, with its unpredictable challenges and unfamiliar landscapes, awaited her with open arms and potential perils. She steeled herself for the unknown, ready to reclaim her place in a society that had moved on without her. The journey ahead was daunting, but Laura was determined to face it head-on, driven by the resilience that had sustained her through the darkest days. "Good luck," Laura called out one of the women, her voice brimming with the shared warmth of countless nights spent in deep conversation and mutual tears. Laura acknowledged the farewell with a nod and a faint smile, but her eyes betrayed a profound, unspoken sorrow. These women had become her surrogate family, creating bonds that were as strong as they were bittersweet. Leaving them behind brought a complex mix of liberation and heartache. The prison gate creaked open with a harsh, metallic sound, a stark reminder of the barrier it had been between her and freedom. Laura stepped out into the glaring sunlight, her eyes squinting against its brilliance. The fresh air, a rare luxury, rushed into her lungs, stirring sensations she had almost forgotten. As she looked around, the absence of a welcoming figure was painfully evident. Her mother, who would have been there to embrace her, had died the previous year, leaving an aching void in her heart. The crushing weight of loneliness settled upon her. She had never known her father, and with her mother gone, she felt utterly alone. Determined to forge ahead, Laura boarded a bus bound for the city. She chose a seat by the window, her gaze fixed on the swiftly passing scenery. The rolling fields and distant mountains offered a fleeting sense of tranquility, but her mind was a tumultuous sea of anxiety and doubt. The uncertainty of what lay ahead gnawed at her spirit, and tears began to flow silently down her cheeks. Memories of the harrowing years in prison flooded back, years filled with fear, suffering, but also unexpected moments of resilience and strength. Her former life as a nurse seemed like a distant, almost unattainable dream, overshadowed by the heavy stigma of her past. As the bus journeyed onward, Laura's thoughts churned. She mourned the life she had lost, the career she had cherished, and the mother who had been her anchor. Yet, amid the sorrow, she also recognized the strength that had carried her through the darkest times. The future was a vast, daunting unknown, but Laura resolved to confront it with the same courage that had seen her through the bleakest days. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but she was determined to rebuild her life, piece by fragile piece. As the bus rumbled down the road, Laura's mind drifted back to the events that had led her to prison. Diego, the man she had loved and trusted implicitly, had exploited her position as a nurse, using her keys to rob several apartments. When he was finally apprehended, he had the audacity to frame her, portraying her as the criminal mastermind behind the heists. The betrayal shattered her, not only stripping her of her freedom, but also leaving her heartbroken and disillusioned. The memories of her trial were seared into her mind: Diego's cold, unflinching lies, and the crushing moment when the unjust verdict was handed down. In the bleak days that followed, Laura had plummeted into despair, even attempting to end her own life. It was Elena, an older inmate with her own tragic backstory, who had intervened, pulling Laura back from the brink and teaching her to find strength in adversity. "I cannot let Diego's betrayal define my life," Laura resolved. "I must forge a path forward." Upon arriving at her childhood home, Laura was engulfed by a wave of nostalgia. The once vibrant house now stood in neglect, the garden overrun with weeds, and the paint peeling away like old memories. As she stepped inside, the stale scent of dampness and dust greeted her, each breath a reminder of the years lost. Tears welled up as she took in the changes wrought by time and abandonment. But amid the sorrow, Laura felt a stirring of determination. It was time to rebuild, to transform her pain into a foundation for a hopeful future. The path ahead was undeniably fraught with challenges, but Laura was resolved not to let her past imprison her any longer. She stepped further into the dilapidated house, each footfall a commitment to herself and her future. She vowed to reclaim her life, to turn the ruins of her past into a sanctuary of resilience and hope. As she moved through the familiar yet changed rooms, Laura promised herself that she would rise from the ashes of her former life, stronger and unyielding, ready to embrace the promise of a new beginning. The dawn of her freedom was radiant, brimming with the promise of a fresh start. Laura steeled herself for the impending challenges, resolved that this time no force would hinder her progress. As she meandered through her old home, she was engulfed by a blend of nostalgia and sorrow. Dust cloaked the furniture, and the air felt heavy and oppressive, saturated with the weight of years gone by. Every room held echoes of a life that seemed to belong to someone else, a distant memory of who she once was. She entered her mother's bedroom, her steps slowing as she approached the dresser. A framed photo of her and her mother, both beaming from happier times, caught her eye. Laura picked up the picture, cradling it tenderly, a sharp ache piercing her heart. Her mother's loving and understanding face stared back at her, a stark reminder of all she had lost. While cleaning, Laura stumbled upon a wooden box tucked away at the back of a closet. Inside, she found letters and old photographs, relics of a simpler, happier time. Among the papers, she discovered a letter that would change her destiny, a notification from a lawyer regarding an inheritance her mother had left behind. The letter mentioned a property in the countryside, a place Laura had never known existed. With a renewed sense of hope, she decided to investigate this property. It represented a chance to start anew, away from the shadows of her past. The memories of her trial and conviction still burned vividly in her mind. She recalled the searing betrayal of Diego, the man she had trusted implicitly. He had exploited her position as a nurse, using her keys to access patients' homes and robbing several apartments. When the police apprehended him, he callously shifted the blame onto her, portraying her as the criminal mastermind. The betrayal was a double-edged sword, cutting her deeply with both the loss of her freedom and the destruction of her trust. The trial was a harrowing ordeal. Diego's lawyers were relentless, and Laura, without adequate resources to defend herself, was sentenced to 10 long years in prison. Despair drove her to the brink, and she attempted to end her own life. It was Elena, an older inmate with a tragic past, who saved her. Elena had accidentally killed her abusive husband and was serving a lengthy sentence. Her resilience and wisdom became Laura's beacon during the darkest days. Elena taught her to find strength amid suffering, to not let her past define her future. Standing in her mother's neglected house, Laura felt the weight of her past, but also the flicker of a new beginning. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but she was determined to rebuild her life, to turn the remnants of her past into the foundation for a brighter future. Each step she took was a promise to herself, a vow to rise above the pain and forge a life filled with hope and possibility. Laura sat on the rickety sofa in the living room and closed her eyes, allowing the memories to flood her mind. Prison life had been brutal, but it had also imparted invaluable lessons. She had learned to be resilient, to endure the harshest conditions, and to find fleeting moments of joy amidst the adversity. Now, with the inheritance letter in hand, Laura felt a glimmer of hope. This could be the fresh start she desperately craved. She resolved to investigate the property and determine if it could truly be the new beginning she yearned for. With a deep sigh, she rose from the sofa and began cleaning the house. Each corner she scrubbed symbolized a step toward her new life, a life she was determined to shape without the shadows of her past. She knew the journey ahead would be arduous, but she was ready to face it with unwavering courage and determination. The following days were a whirlwind of tidying the house and planning for the future. As she cleaned the attic, she unearthed more memories of her mother's small treasures that spoke of the love and sacrifice her mother had always shown her. Laura knew she couldn't rewrite history, but she could certainly forge a better future. With the inheritance as a beacon of hope, she began to envision a new life filled with promise and opportunity. Laura woke up early, the sun just beginning to peek over the horizon, bathing the house in a soft, warm glow. She had spent the last few days meticulously cleaning and organizing, trying to breathe new life into her old home. The persistent dust and grime were constant reminders of years of neglect, but with each corner she polished, she felt as if she were also sweeping away the pain of her past. That morning, with the lawyer's letter clutched firmly in her hand, she decided it was time to investigate the property her mother had left her. She boarded a bus to the city center and made her way to the office of the lawyer who had handled the inheritance. Upon arrival, she was greeted by a friendly secretary who led her to a small waiting room. Laura sat, her eyes drifting over the pictures on the walls, trying to steady her nerves. After a few minutes, a door opened and a kindly-looking older man invited her into his office. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the cold sterility of the prison she'd left behind. As she took a seat, the lawyer gave her a reassuring smile. "Ms. Smith, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm sorry for the circumstances that bring us together, but I hope we can find a way to honor your mother's wishes and help you start anew." Laura felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. She explained her situation, her hopes, and her fears. The lawyer listened attentively, offering insights and advice on how to proceed with the property. The days that followed were filled with preparation and anticipation. Laura felt an unfamiliar sense of excitement bubbling within her. She began to see the inheritance not just as a gift from her mother, but as a lifeline, a chance to rebuild her life. The road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to face it head-on. Each morning, as the sun rose and filled her home with light, Laura worked tirelessly to transform her surroundings and her spirit. She found strength in the memories of her mother, in the lessons she had learned in prison, and in the hope of a brighter future. With each step, she moved closer to reclaiming her life, determined to turn her dreams into reality. "Miss Smith, it's a pleasure to meet you," said the lawyer, extending his hand with a warm smile. "I am Roberta White. Your mother was an extraordinary woman." Laura smiled timidly as she shook his hand and took a seat. "Thank you, Mr. White. I'm here because I found a letter mentioning an inheritance. I had no idea about it." The lawyer nodded, opening a file on his desk. "Yes, your mother entrusted me with this information before she passed away. The property in question is a quaint country house, located about 2 hours from the city. It's a beautiful place, surrounded by nature. Your mother always wanted you to have a sanctuary away from it all." Laura felt a rush of emotions: surprise, gratitude, and a profound sense of connection to her mother's enduring love. She couldn't imagine a more meaningful gift. "Could you give me more details?" she asked eagerly. The lawyer provided her with all the necessary documents and a detailed description of the property. Laura listened intently, her heart swelling with hope. She thanked Mr. White and headed back home, clutching the documents that symbolized a new beginning. As she walked through the familiar streets, she felt a newfound sense of purpose and anticipation for the future. Back at home, while she was lost in thoughts of the country house, Laura received an unexpected phone call. It was Marta, a childhood friend she hadn't seen in years. They had lost contact after Laura's imprisonment, but Marta had always been a kind and understanding person. "Laura? Is it really you?" Marta's voice was filled with warmth and excitement. "Marta, I can't believe it." "It's been so long," Laura replied, her voice trembling with emotion. They spoke for hours, reminiscing about their childhood and catching up on the lost years. Marta's call felt like another gift from the universe, reinforcing Laura's belief that she could rebuild her life with the support of old friends and new opportunities. That evening, Laura packed a small bag for her trip to the country house. She could hardly sleep, her mind buzzing with thoughts of the future. The next morning, she woke up early, the first light of dawn casting a golden glow through her window. She took a deep breath, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. The journey to the country house was filled with anticipation. As the bus wound its way through the countryside, Laura gazed out at the rolling hills and lush greenery, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. When she finally arrived, she was struck by the beauty of the place. The house was quaint and charming, nestled amidst a sea of trees and wildflowers. It was everything she had hoped for and more. Stepping inside, Laura felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This house was more than just a property. It was a symbol of her mother's love and a beacon of hope for her future. She walked through each room, envisioning the new life she would build here, free from the shadows of her past. As the sun set, casting a warm, golden light over the landscape, Laura stood on the porch, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to embrace it with courage and determination. This was her chance to start anew, to create a life filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. "Laura, I can't believe you're finally out." "How are you?" Marta's voice was filled with genuine warmth and excitement. Overwhelmed by the kindness in Marta's voice, Laura felt a wave of emotion. She briefly shared her current situation, explaining, "It hasn't been easy, but I'm determined to start over." "Listen, I have something for you. I know you need a job, and there's an opportunity that might be perfect for you. A wealthy family is seeking a caregiver for their son. It's a well-paying position, and I believe you'd be ideal for it," Marta said, her tone filled with encouragement. Laura was momentarily silent, her mind racing to process the offer. A well-paying job could be exactly what she needed to regain her footing and investigate the inheritance. "Do you think they'd hire someone with my background?" she asked, her voice tinged with doubt. "I've spoken to them about you, and they're willing to give you a chance. They're a compassionate family, and they need someone with your skills and experience," Marta reassured her, her words filled with optimism. With gratitude and hope, Laura accepted the offer. They arranged to meet the following day to discuss the details. That night, for the first time in a long while, Laura felt a sense of purpose and direction. She allowed herself to hope, to dream of a brighter future. The next morning, Laura set out for the address Marta had provided. As she approached the imposing mansion, she was taken aback by its grandeur. The perfectly manicured gardens and the stately facade seemed almost surreal. She felt a surge of intimidation, but she took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead, and knocked on the massive wooden door. The door opened to reveal a kind-faced woman who welcomed Laura inside. The interior of the mansion was just as impressive as the exterior, with luxurious furnishings and an air of elegance. As Laura followed the woman through the house, she couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and nervousness. She was led into a cozy sitting room where she met the family who would become her employers. Their warmth and sincerity quickly put her at ease. They asked about her experience and expressed their understanding of her past, emphasizing their belief in second chances and the importance of compassion. Laura felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. The opportunity Marta had presented was not just a job, but a lifeline. It was a chance to rebuild her life, to prove her worth, and to move beyond the shadows of her past. As she left the mansion that day, she carried with her a renewed sense of hope and determination. That evening, Laura reflected on the day's events with a heart full of gratitude. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but she was ready to embrace it with all the strength and resilience she had gained over the years. The mansion, with its promise of stability and purpose, was a beacon of hope, guiding her toward a future filled with possibility and redemption. The door creaked open to reveal an older woman with a stern yet kind demeanor. "Welcome, Miss Smith. I am Mrs. Johnson, the housekeeper for the Lopez family. Please come in." Laura stepped inside, her heart pounding as she was led to an elegant living room. There, a distinguished middle-aged man stood waiting. "Good morning. I'm Daniel Lopez," he said warmly, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming. Marta has spoken very highly of you." Laura returned his handshake, a nervous smile playing on her lips. "Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Lopez." Daniel nodded and gestured for her to sit down. "My son Andrew had a tragic accident 2 years ago, which left him paralyzed. He has endured so much, and we desperately need someone experienced in care and rehabilitation. Marta mentioned that you were a nurse before everything happened." Laura nodded, a wave of sadness and determination washing over her. "Yes, sir. I was a nurse, and I have significant experience in care and rehabilitation. I am committed to doing my utmost to help Andrew." Daniel studied her for a moment, then offered a slight, encouraging smile. "I believe everyone deserves a second chance. I sincerely hope you can bring some comfort and support to my son. Mrs. Johnson will show you around the house and explain your duties." Laura followed Mrs. Johnson through the expansive mansion, marveling at its grandeur and elegance. The lavish decor and spacious rooms were a stark contrast to her recent life. Finally, they arrived at a large, sunlit room where a young man sat in a wheelchair, gazing out the window. "Andrew, this is Miss Smith, Mrs. Johnson introduced softly. Andrew turned to face her, his eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and guarded hope. Laura approached him, her heart swelling with empathy. "Hello, Andrew. It's a pleasure to meet you," she said gently, kneeling to his level. "I'm here to help, and I look forward to working together to make things better for you." A faint smile touched Andrew's lips, and he nodded slightly. Laura felt a spark of connection and purpose. As Mrs. Johnson continued the tour, detailing her responsibilities, Laura absorbed every word, her resolve growing stronger with each step. The days ahead promised to be challenging, but Laura felt ready to embrace them. This job represented more than just employment. It was a lifeline, a chance to rebuild her life and make a meaningful difference. As she settled into her new role, the weight of her past began to lift, replaced by a burgeoning sense of hope and possibility. "Andrew, this is Laura, your new caregiver, Mrs. Johnson said softly, her voice gentle and reassuring. Andrew turned slowly, his eyes filled with a mix of distrust and lingering pain. Laura felt a pang of empathy as she saw the sadness etched in his gaze, but it also steeled her resolve to help him. "Hello, Andrew. I'm Laura. I'm here to assist you," she said warmly, offering him a kind smile. Andrew remained silent, his gaze returning to the view outside the window. Laura understood that earning his trust would be a challenging journey, but she was determined to give it her all. The next morning, Laura woke up early in her new room at the Lopez mansion. The soft, comfortable bed was a stark contrast to the hard prison bunk she had grown accustomed to. Despite the luxury surrounding her, she felt a bit out of place. She took a moment to remind herself of her purpose to help Andrew and, in doing so, to carve out a new beginning for herself. After getting dressed, she made her way downstairs to the kitchen, where Mrs. Johnson was already busy preparing breakfast. "Good morning," Laura greeted Mrs. Johnson with a smile. "Good morning, dear. I hope you slept well, Mrs. Johnson replied, her demeanor warm and welcoming. "Yes, thank you," Laura said, smiling back. "Is there anything specific I should know for today?" "Yes, Mrs. Johnson replied as she placed a plate of eggs and toast on the table. "Mr. Lopez wants to speak with you before you start working with Andrew. He's in his study. But please eat something first. You'll need the energy." Laura nodded, appreciating the thoughtful gesture. She sat down and began eating, her mind racing with thoughts of the day ahead. The meal was simple but nourishing, a far cry from the meager prison fare she had endured. After finishing her breakfast, Laura made her way to Mr. Lopez's study. The door was slightly ajar, and she could see him inside, surrounded by shelves filled with books and papers. She knocked gently. "Come in, Mr. Lopez called out, looking up from his desk as she entered. "Good morning, Mr. Lopez," Laura greeted him, trying to steady her nerves. "Good morning, Laura. Please, have a seat," he said, gesturing to a chair opposite his desk. "I wanted to speak with you about Andrew. As you know, he has been through a lot, and it won't be easy for him to accept help. But I believe you can make a difference in his life." Laura listened intently, her heart swelling with determination. "I understand, Mr. Lopez. I will do everything I can to support Andrew and help him regain some sense of normalcy." Mr. Lopez nodded, a hint of gratitude in his eyes. "I appreciate your commitment. Remember, patience and consistency are key. Mrs. Johnson will be here to assist you with anything you need." With their conversation concluded, Laura felt a renewed sense of purpose. She left the study, ready to face the challenges ahead. She found Andrew in his room, still gazing out the window, lost in his thoughts. "Andrew," she said softly, approaching him with care. "I know this is hard for you, but I'm here to help. Let's take it one step at a time, together." Andrew didn't respond, but Laura sensed a slight shift in his demeanor. She knew it would be a slow process, but she was prepared for the journey. This was her chance to make a meaningful impact, to rebuild her life through kindness and dedication. With every step, Laura was determined to create a future filled with hope and healing for both Andrew and herself. Laura nodded and sat down to eat, feeling grateful for Mrs. Johnson's hospitality. After finishing her breakfast, she made her way to Daniel Lopez's study, a mixture of nerves and determination coursing through her veins. Daniel greeted her with a kind smile and invited her to sit. "Laura, I want to thank you again for taking this job. I know it won't be easy, but I trust you can make a difference in my son's life," he said warmly. "Thank you, Mr. Lopez. I'm willing to give my best," Laura replied sincerely, her voice steady. Daniel's expression turned more serious as he continued. "Andrew has been very depressed since his accident. He was an active and lively young man, and losing his mobility has deeply affected him. He needs someone who can provide not just physical care, but also emotional support and motivation. Marta told me you're a strong and compassionate person. And I believe that's exactly what Andrew needs. Laura nodded, fully grasping the magnitude of the task ahead. I will do everything possible to help him find a new perspective and regain some of his old life, she promised, her resolve unwavering. I know you will, Daniel said, his voice filled with hope. Now, Mrs. Johnson will guide you to the exercise room. That's where you'll work with Andrew today. Good luck, Laura. With an encouraging smile from Daniel, Laura left the study and followed Mrs. Johnson down the hallway. The mansion's grandeur seemed to fade as she focused on the task at hand. They arrived at the exercise room, a spacious area filled with equipment designed for rehabilitation. Here we are, Mrs. Johnson said, opening the door. Andrew will join you shortly. Just remember to be patient with him. He can be quite resistant at times. Laura nodded, taking a deep breath as she stepped into the room. She was determined to break through Andrew's walls of pain and distrust. Moments later, Andrew was wheeled in by another staff member, his expression as guarded as ever. Good morning, Laura greeted him with a warm smile. Are you ready to start our session? Andrew didn't respond, his eyes flickering with a mix of defiance and resignation. Laura knew it would take time to earn his trust, but she was prepared for the challenge. She began by explaining the exercises they would do, her tone gentle and encouraging. As they worked through the session, Laura tried to engage Andrew in conversation, sharing little stories and offering words of encouragement. Slowly, she noticed a slight softening in his demeanor. He still wasn't speaking much, but there was a flicker of interest in his eyes. By the end of the session, Laura felt a small sense of accomplishment. It was just the beginning, but she was determined to keep pushing forward. As she helped Andrew back to his room, she could feel the weight of his struggle, but also the faintest glimmer of hope. Returning to her own quarters later, Laura reflected on the day. She knew the road ahead would be long and filled with obstacles, but she was ready. This was her chance to not only help Andrew, but also to rebuild her own life. With each passing day, she hoped to bring a little more light into both their worlds. Laura left the study and followed Mrs. Johnson through the sprawling mansion to a spacious exercise room filled with modern equipment and bathed in natural light from large windows. Andrew was already there, sitting in his wheelchair, staring dejectedly at the treadmill in front of him. Hello, Andrew, Laura greeted him with a warm smile. We're going to start with some light exercises today. I want to see how you are physically and adjust the plan according to your needs. Andrew didn't respond immediately. His expression was one of distrust and apathy, but Laura wasn't discouraged. She approached him carefully, her voice gentle and encouraging as she began to explain the exercises they would do. Let's start with some stretches for your arms and legs, she suggested. This will help improve your circulation and keep your muscles active. Laura demonstrated the stretches, patiently guiding Andrew through each movement. She could sense his reluctance, but she persisted with calm determination. We'll take it one step at a time, she reassured him. It's important to keep your body moving, even if it's just a little bit each day. Andrew reluctantly followed her instructions, his movements slow and stiff. Laura kept her tone upbeat and positive, praising his efforts and gently correcting his form when needed. As they continued, she noticed a slight change in his demeanor, a glimmer of engagement, however faint. You're doing great, Andrew, she encouraged. Remember, small steps lead to big improvements. We'll take this journey together. Gradually, Andrew's resistance began to ease. Laura's patience and genuine care started to chip away at the walls he had built around himself. By the end of the session, he seemed a little less distant, a small but significant victory in Laura's eyes. As she helped him back to his room, Laura felt a sense of fulfillment. She knew there was still a long road ahead, but she was determined to help Andrew regain some of his former spirit and independence. This wasn't just about physical rehabilitation, it was about healing emotional wounds and rebuilding trust. Back in her own quarters, Laura reflected on the day's progress. Each small breakthrough with Andrew gave her a renewed sense of purpose. She was here to make a difference, not only in his life but also in her own. With every session, she was reminded that even in the face of immense challenges, hope and perseverance could pave the way for a brighter future. Andrew watched her for a moment, then, with a sigh, began to follow her instructions. Laura worked with him patiently, offering encouragement with each small progress. Though Andrew was initially reluctant, he gradually began to cooperate more as the session progressed. Laura noticed that beneath his layers of pain and frustration, Andrew possessed a remarkable inner strength. She resolved that her approach would focus not only on physical rehabilitation, but also on emotional support. "Andrew, I know this is difficult," she said, looking him in the eyes. "But I want you to know that I'm here to help you every step of the way. You're not alone in this." Andrew looked at her for a long moment before nodding slightly. It was a small gesture, but to Laura, it meant a great deal. She knew that gaining his trust would be a slow process, but she was committed to the journey. The first exercise session came to an end, and Laura helped Andrew back to his room. Afterwards, she sought out Mrs. Johnson to gather more information about Andrew's daily routine and specific needs. "He's a strong young man, but he's been through so much. He needs someone who can help him see beyond his current conditions," said Mrs. Johnson, her voice filled with empathy. "I believe you can be that person, Laura." Laura thanked her for the encouraging words and mentally prepared for the work ahead. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but every small progress Andrew made would be a victory. That night, Laura went to bed with a renewed sense of purpose. She knew the road would be long and fraught with challenges, but she was determined to help Andrew rediscover his strength, and in the process she hoped to find her own. In the following days, Laura's dedication and patience began to yield results. She worked with Andrew diligently, celebrating his small victories and offering unwavering support during moments of frustration. She introduced new exercises gradually, always mindful of his physical limits and emotional state. Her presence became a source of comfort for Andrew, who started to open up, sharing bits and pieces of his life before the accident. Laura listened intently, offering empathy and understanding. She shared stories of her own, including the struggles she had faced and the strength she had found within herself. Their bond grew stronger, built on mutual respect and a shared journey toward healing. As the weeks passed, Andrew's progress was undeniable. He began to look forward to their sessions, his initial resistance giving way to a determined effort to improve. Laura's encouragement and belief in him sparked a renewed sense of hope. He started to set small goals for himself, each achievement boosting his confidence. Laura, too, found herself changing. The work she did with Andrew was not only about helping him but also about rebuilding her own life. Each day brought new challenges but also new reasons to persevere. She felt a growing sense of fulfillment and purpose, knowing that she was making a tangible difference. One evening, as she reflected on the progress they had made, Laura realized that her journey was intertwined with Andrew's. They were both finding their way back from dark places, discovering strength and resilience they hadn't known they possessed. The mansion, once a place of intimidation, had become a sanctuary of hope and renewal. Laura's days were filled with purpose, and her nights were spent dreaming of the future. She knew there would be setbacks and difficult times, but she also knew that with determination and support, they could overcome anything. Together, they were forging a path toward a brighter, more hopeful future, each step bringing them closer to healing and newfound strength. The Lopez mansion, with all its grandeur, was becoming a place of new beginnings for both of them. Laura woke up early the next day, ready for another day at the Lopez mansion. She had spent much of the previous night thinking about Andrew and how she could help him overcome his despondency. She knew she would need patience and perseverance to reach him, but she was determined not to give up. After a quick breakfast, Laura headed to the exercise room where Andrew was already waiting for her. His expression was serious, and there was a shadow of distrust in his eyes. Laura decided that to earn his trust, she needed to be completely honest and open with him. "Good morning, Andrew," she greeted with a smile. "How are you feeling today?" Andrew looked at her with indifference and shrugged. "The same as always," he responded dryly. Laura decided not to push him and started the session with the basic exercises they had done the previous day. As they worked, she tried to start a conversation to get to know him better. "Andrew, I know this is hard for you, but I'd like to know more about you. Tell me something about yourself, about your interests before the accident," she suggested, hoping to break through his wall of silence. Andrew sighed, obviously reluctant to talk. But after a few moments of silence, he began to speak in a low voice. "I liked running. I was a marathoner. I competed in races and had a group of friends I trained with every day. That was before." He trailed off, looking away, his voice laden with bitterness. Laura felt empathy for him. She understood what it meant to lose something so important, something that defined a large part of your life. That must have been incredible. "Running marathons requires great discipline and determination," she said with admiration. "Maybe you can't run now, but that same discipline can help you in your rehabilitation. You are a strong person, Andrew." Andrew didn't respond, but Laura noticed a slight softening in his expression. They continued with the exercises in silence, but there was a subtle change in the atmosphere. Laura knew they had taken a small step forward. Later, as she helped Andrew back to his room, Laura decided to try another approach. "I've been thinking about some exercises we could try. We could include some yoga and meditation to help you relax and improve your flexibility. What do you think?" she suggested. Andrew frowned. "Yoga? I've never done it before. I'm not sure I'll like it," he replied with a touch of skepticism. "We can try it and see how you feel. If you don't like it, we can try something else. I'm here to help you find what works best for you," Laura said calmly. Andrew reluctantly agreed to give it a try. Laura felt encouraged by his willingness to try something new, even if it was with reservations. That afternoon, Laura prepared a yoga session in the mansion's garden. It was a quiet and serene place, perfect for relaxing and focusing. When Andrew arrived, Laura had already set everything up. They started with simple exercises, focusing on breathing and gentle movements. "Take a deep breath, Andrew. Let the tension go with each exhale," Laura guided him in a soft voice. Andrew followed her instructions, though somewhat clumsily at first. However, as they progressed, he began to relax a little more. Laura noticed how his usually tense and rigid body began to loosen slightly. "You're doing very well, Andrew. Keep it up," she encouraged him, smiling. By the end of the session, Andrew seemed surprisingly calm. Laura hoped that this new activity could help him, not only physically but also emotionally. "Thank you, Laura. It wasn't as bad as I thought," Andrew admitted with a small smile. "I'm glad you liked it. We can keep practicing and see how you feel," Laura replied, satisfied with the progress. The afternoon ended with a sense of accomplishment. Laura knew there was still a long way to go, but each small advance was a victory. As Andrew returned to his room, Laura stayed in the garden for a moment, enjoying the peace and reflecting on the day. She was beginning to feel that she could really make a difference in Andrew's life, and in the process, she was also finding her own path to redemption and a new beginning. The Lopez mansion, with all its grandeur, was becoming a place of hope for both her and Andrew. Days at the Lopez mansion began to follow a routine. Laura would wake up early and prepare the exercise session for Andrew. Slowly, the relationship between them started to change. Although Andrew initially showed resistance, with each session he became more receptive and cooperative. Laura felt that she was gradually breaking down the barriers he had built around his heart. One morning, while they were stretching in the garden, Laura decided to address a topic she had been avoiding. "Andrew, I know talking about your accident is painful, but I think it's important that we do. Understanding how you feel could help us move forward," she said gently, keeping a reassuring tone. Andrew frowned, his body visibly tensed. "I don't want to talk about that," he replied coldly, looking away. Laura approached and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I understand it's difficult, but I'm here to listen. You don't have to carry all this alone," she insisted. Andrew was silent for a moment, his eyes fixed on a distant point in the garden. Finally, he let out a sigh and began to speak. "It was a car accident. I was with my friends, coming back from a party. We had been drinking. It was my fault. I lost control of the car, and here I am," he said, his voice breaking slightly. Laura squeezed his shoulder, offering wordless comfort. "I'm very sorry for what happened, Andrew, but you can't blame yourself forever. What's important now is how you decide to move forward," she said firmly, looking him in the eyes. Andrew nodded slowly, a shadow of sadness in his gaze. "I know. It's just difficult," he murmured. Laura decided not to push him further, and they continued with the exercises in silence. However, she felt that this small advance was significant. Andrew had shared a part of his pain, and that was an important step towards healing. Over time, Andrew began to trust Laura more. They started spending more time together, not just during exercise sessions, but also talking and sharing everyday moments. Laura would tell him about her life before prison, her dreams and hopes. Andrew, in turn, would talk about his ambitions before the accident and how everything had changed so suddenly. One day, while practicing yoga, Laura noticed that Andrew was particularly focused. "You're improving a lot, Andrew. Your flexibility and strength are increasing," she commented with a smile. Andrew smiled shyly. "Thanks to you. I never thought something like yoga could help me so much," he admitted. Laura sat next to him and looked at him seriously. "Andrew, I want you to know that you are much stronger than you think. You have incredible determination, and that's what will take you far. Not just in your physical recovery, but also in your life," she said with conviction. Andrew looked at her, his eyes reflecting gratitude and something deeper, a spark of hope that she hadn't seen in him before. "Thank you, Laura. I don't know what I would do without you," he responded sincerely. The relationship between Laura and Andrew grew stronger day by day. Although there were still moments of frustration and pain, there were also laughter and small victories. Laura knew that the road to complete recovery would be long, but she was willing to walk it alongside Andrew. One afternoon, as they sat in the garden enjoying the tranquility, Andrew took Laura's hand. "Laura, I've been thinking a lot. You've given me more than just physical care. You've given me hope, and for that I want you to know that I will always be grateful," he said with a warm smile. Laura felt a surge of emotion and squeezed his hand. "And I will always be here for you, Andrew. Together we can overcome anything," she responded. Over time, Laura and Andrew not only became caregiver and patient, but friends, trusting and supporting each other every step of the way. The Lopez mansion, which at first had seemed like a place of despair for Andrew, was transforming into a haven of healing and new beginnings. The routine at the Lopez mansion continued, and over time, Laura and Andrew found a comfortable rhythm in their daily lives. The exercise sessions became more intense and productive, and the conversations between them grew deeper and more sincere. One afternoon, while taking a break in the garden after a particularly exhausting session, Andrew broke the silence. "Laura, there's something I've been wanting to tell you. Something about my accident that I haven't shared with anyone," he said, looking intently at the horizon. Laura watched him closely, noticing the seriousness in his tone. "You can tell me anything, Andrew. I'm here to listen," she responded softly. Andrew took a deep breath before continuing. "That night of the accident, we weren't just drinking. There were many things wrong in my life. I was struggling with the pressure of being the perfect son, living up to my father's expectations. I felt like I always had to prove something, and that night I just let go," he confessed, his voice filled with pain. Laura nodded, understanding the burden Andrew had been carrying. "It's understandable, Andrew. We all make mistakes and carry burdens that sometimes seem too heavy. The important thing is how we decide to move forward and learn from those difficult moments," she said with empathy. Andrew looked at her, a mix of gratitude and sadness in his eyes. "Thank you, Laura. Talking to you always makes me feel better, lighter," he admitted. Laura smiled, happy to be a support for him. "I'm here to help you carry those burdens, Andrew. Together we can find a way to move forward," she assured. That same afternoon, as Laura helped Andrew back to his room, he asked her a question that took her by surprise. "Laura, what really happened with Diego? You never told me the whole story," he said, looking at her with curiosity. Laura paused for a moment, surprised by the question. She sighed and decided it was time to share her truth. "Diego and I met when I was working as a nurse. At first he seemed like a good person, someone I could trust. But over time I realized he was involved in shady things. One day he used the keys I had from my patient houses to rob several apartments. When he was caught, he blamed me, saying I was the mastermind behind the thefts. I was judged and unjustly convicted," she recounted with a trembling voice. Andrew listened attentively, his expression darkening as he heard what Laura had been through. "That's terrible, Laura. You didn't deserve to go through that," he said sincerely. Laura nodded, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. "It was very hard, but it also taught me many lessons. In prison, I met a woman named Elena who became my mentor. She helped me find strength within myself that I didn't know I had. And now I'm here, trying to build a new life," she said, trying to stay positive. Andrew took Laura's hand, squeezing it firmly. "You're incredibly strong, Laura, and I'm grateful to have you here," he said with a smile. Over time, Laura and Andrew continued sharing their stories and supporting each other. The trust and respect between them grew, creating a strong and meaningful bond. One night, while they were in the garden under the starry sky, Andrew spoke of his dreams and ambitions before the accident. "I wanted to be a professional athlete, but now I feel like I've lost that dream," he said with a sigh. Laura looked at him determinedly. "It's never too late to find new dreams, Andrew. Maybe you can't be an athlete in the same way as before, but that doesn't mean you can't have a full and meaningful life. We can find new goals together," she said with conviction. Andrew watched her, feeling a spark of hope that had been absent for a long time. "You're right, Laura. Thank you for believing in me," he said with a smile. As the days went by, Laura and Andrew began exploring new possibilities and activities. They tried different exercises and therapies, and Laura introduced Andrew to the idea of getting involved in volunteer activities, helping others who were also facing challenges. With each small success, Andrew began to regain his sense of purpose and self-esteem. And while helping Andrew heal, Laura also found her own path to redemption. The Lopez mansion, once a place of sadness and despair, was transforming into a home full of possibilities and new beginnings. Laura and Andrew, united by their stories of pain and overcoming, were ready to face any challenge the future held for them. Laura woke up early, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today was the day she and Andrew would visit the property her mother had left her in her will. She had spoken with the lawyer Roberta White and had arranged everything for the visit. It was an important step, not only for Laura but also for Andrew, who had shown interest in the project. After breakfast, Laura went to find Andrew in his room. "Good morning, Andrew. Ready for our adventure today?" she said with a smile. Andrew, who seemed more animated than usual, nodded. "Yes, I'm ready. I'm curious to see the property. Besides, it will be good to get out of the mansion for a while," he replied, trying to hide his enthusiasm. Laura and Andrew headed to the car, where Mrs. Johnson had prepared a picnic for them to take along. With everything ready, they set off towards the property. The 2-hour drive gave them time to talk and enjoy the rural scenery. "Do you know anything else about the property?" Andrew asked while looking out the window. "Not much. The lawyer said it's a small country house surrounded by nature. My mother never talked about it, so it will be a surprise for both of us," Laura replied. When they finally arrived, Laura and Andrew were impressed by the beauty of the place. The property was situated in a valley surrounded by green hills and lush forests. The house, although modest, had a rustic charm that made them feel at home immediately. "Your mother had a good eye for beautiful places," Andrew commented, admiring the view. Laura smiled, feeling a special connection with her mother. "Yes, she did. I'm sure this place has great potential," she said, looking at the house with dreamy eyes. Laura and Andrew explored the property, discovering a small stream running near the house and a garden that, although neglected, showed signs of having once been very well cared for. Laura could imagine her mother working in the garden, tending to the flowers and plants with care. After exploring, they sat at a picnic table that Mrs. Johnson had prepared. While eating, they discussed their plans for the property. "We could turn this place into a refuge for people who need a fresh start, like ex-convicts and people with disabilities. It could be a place of healing and growth," Laura suggested. Andrew nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, that sounds amazing. We could offer physical and emotional therapy, outdoor activities, and a safe space for people to rebuild their lives. I could help with the physical part, and you with the emotional support," he added. Laura felt inspired by Andrew's vision. Together, they began to elaborate a more detailed plan, discussing ideas and resources they would need to make their dream a reality. "We could look for volunteers and donations. Maybe even some local businesses would be interested in supporting our project," Laura suggested. "And we could organize events to raise funds and create awareness about our mission. I think this place could be something really special," Andrew added. As the sun began to set, Laura and Andrew sat on the porch of the house, enjoying the tranquility of the place. They had spent a productive and inspiring day, and both felt closer than ever. "Thank you for coming with me today, Andrew. It means a lot to me to have you here," Laura said, looking at the horizon. "Thank you, Laura. This place gives me hope. I think we can do something great here," Andrew responded with a smile. Back at the mansion, Laura and Andrew shared their plans with Daniel Lopez, who showed great interest and willingness to support the project. "I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm proud of both of you for wanting to make a difference in people's lives. Count on my support for whatever you need," Daniel said, filling Laura and Andrew with motivation. With each passing day, they got closer to making their vision a reality, discovering that the true power of healing lay in compassion, perseverance, and shared love. The following weeks were filled with activity and enthusiasm. Laura and Andrew worked tirelessly to prepare the inherited property and turn it into the refuge they had dreamed of. With the support of Daniel Lopez and Mrs. Johnson, they began to plan and organize the necessary resources for the renovation. Each day, Laura and Andrew traveled to the property, dedicating long hours to cleaning, repairing, and beautifying the house and garden. They hired a team of local builders to help with the larger repairs, and also sought volunteers from the community to support their efforts. "Andrew, look at how the garden is coming along. I can already imagine it filled with flowers and medicinal plants," Laura said as she planted new seeds in the fertile soil. "It's looking amazing, Laura. I'm excited to see how everything takes shape," Andrew responded, working on installing a wheelchair ramp next to the house entrance. As the days progressed, more people from the community began to show interest in the project. Some offered material donations, and others joined as volunteers to help with the construction and design of the refuge. One afternoon, while resting on the porch after a long day of work, Laura and Andrew discussed the name of the refuge. "I think we should call it New Hope," Laura suggested. "It represents what we want to offer the people who come here, a new chance and hope for their lives." Andrew nodded, smiling. "I love that name. It's perfect for what we're creating here," he said with a sparkle of enthusiasm in his eyes. With the name decided, they began designing the logo and planning the official inauguration. They wanted it to be a special event where they could invite the community, their friends, and those who had supported their vision from the beginning. As the inauguration date approached, Laura and Andrew felt more and more excited. The house was almost ready, and the garden was beginning to bloom, showing the first signs of life and color. They had worked hard to transform the place and were proud of what they had achieved together. The day of the inauguration arrived with a clear, sunny sky. Laura and Andrew got up early, finalizing details and preparing the house to welcome guests. Mrs. Johnson and Daniel Lopez were also there, helping with the preparations and showing their unconditional support. "I'm so proud of you too. You've done an incredible job here," Daniel said, hugging Laura and Andrew. "Thank you, Dad. We couldn't have done it without your support," Andrew replied gratefully. Guests began to arrive, and soon the garden was filled with people celebrating the opening of New Hope. Laura and Andrew welcomed everyone, sharing the story of how they had gotten there and their plans for the future. During the event, Laura took the microphone to address the guests. "Welcome everyone, and thank you for being here with us today. This project has been a dream come true for Andrew and me. We want New Hope to be a place where people can find refuge, healing, and a new opportunity in life. We deeply appreciate the support of our community and everyone who has contributed to making this possible," she said emotionally. Andrew also spoke from the heart. "I have been through very dark times in my life, but thanks to Laura and all of you, I have found a new purpose. New Hope is not just a physical refuge, but also a place of personal growth and transformation. We are excited about what the future holds and the lives we can impact together," he said, receiving applause and words of encouragement from the attendees. The inauguration was a resounding success. People explored the property, enjoyed the food and drinks prepared by Mrs. Johnson, and marveled at the transformation of the place. Many volunteered for future projects and activities, excited to be part of something so meaningful. That night, after the last guests had left, Laura and Andrew sat on the porch, watching the stars. "We did it, Andrew. New Hope is a reality," Laura said, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. "Yes, we did it. And this is just the beginning. There's so much more we can do and so many lives we can change," Andrew responded, taking Laura's hand. With the inauguration of New Hope behind them, Laura and Andrew immersed themselves in the daily work of the refuge. Each day brought new challenges and opportunities to help people who came seeking support and healing. Meanwhile, the relationship between Laura and Andrew continued to strengthen, forged by their shared dedication and the experiences they lived together. One morning, while they were doing their daily exercise routine in the garden, Laura noticed a significant change in Andrew. His movements were more fluid and his energy more positive. "You're making incredible progress, Andrew. Every day I see you stronger and more confident," Laura said with a smile. Andrew, sweating but with a look of satisfaction, nodded. "Thank you, Laura. I couldn't have gotten this far without you." "You've been a huge part of my recovery," he responded, looking at her with gratitude. Laura felt emotional seeing how much Andrew had advanced. She remembered the days when he could barely move, and his attitude was somber and defeatist. Now she saw a man who was regaining his physical strength and spirit. Later that day, Andrew had a therapy session with one of the new volunteer physiotherapists who had joined the New Hope team. Laura decided to watch from a distance to see how it unfolded. "Very well, Andrew. Today we're going to work on your balance and coordination," said the physiotherapist as he prepared the equipment. Andrew followed the instructions with determination, completing each exercise with focus and effort. Laura noticed how his muscles responded better and his posture looked more stable. After the session, the physical therapist approached Laura. "Andrew is progressing very well. He has an impressive inner strength and a great will to improve. At this pace, I'm sure he will continue to advance," the therapist commented with a smile. Laura felt proud and grateful for the support and dedication of the New Hope team. She knew that not only was Andrew changing, but she was also transforming herself. Working at the shelter had given her a new perspective and a renewed purpose. That night, while dining in the mansion's dining room, Laura decided to talk to Andrew about something she had been thinking about. "Andrew, I've noticed that you are much more confident and that your strength has improved considerably. Have you thought about what you'd like to do in the long run?" she asked. Andrew looked at her, reflecting for a moment. "I've been thinking about that, actually. I've always wanted to help others, and now, after everything I've been through, I believe I have a new understanding of what it means to overcome challenges. I'd like to study to become a physical therapist or counselor to help others in situations similar to mine," he replied with a smile. Laura felt a surge of emotion and pride. "That sounds amazing, Andrew. I think you would be a wonderful therapist or counselor. You have the experience and empathy needed to make a real difference in people's lives," she said enthusiastically. "Thank you, Laura. You've shown me what's possible and given me the strength to keep going. I want to do the same for others," Andrew responded, his voice full of conviction. The days continued to be filled with work and progress at New Hope. Laura and Andrew became a formidable team, inspiring the volunteers and the people who came to the shelter. Every success story and every small advance were reasons for celebration and hope. One weekend, they organized a community event at New Hope to raise funds and increase awareness of their mission. They invited the community, local media, and other organizations to learn about the work they were doing and how they could contribute. During the event, Andrew took the stage to share his story. He spoke about his accident, his struggle, and his recovery, and how New Hope and Laura had helped him find a new purpose. "This place has not only helped me regain my physical strength, but also find a new purpose in life. I want to thank everyone who has supported this initiative and Laura, who has been my guide and inspiration," Andrew said, receiving a standing ovation from the audience. Laura, moved, joined him on stage. "Andrew is a living example of what perseverance, love, and support can achieve. We are very proud of him and everyone who is part of New Hope. Together, we can make a big difference in many people's lives," she said, looking at Andrew with a smile of complicity. The event was a resounding success, raising significant funds and attracting the attention of new people interested in supporting their cause. Laura and Andrew felt more motivated than ever to continue their work. That night, while gazing at the stars from the porch, Laura felt a deep sense of satisfaction and peace. She knew she had found her purpose, and that together with Andrew, they could face any challenge that came their way. "We're achieving incredible things, Andrew, and this is just the beginning," said Laura, taking Andrew's hand. "Yes, it is. Together we can do anything," Andrew responded, squeezing her hand firmly. Life at New Hope had become a routine full of gratifying work and moments of joy. Laura and Andrew dedicated themselves passionately to their project, seeing how more and more people benefited from their effort and dedication every day. However, amidst all the work, a deeper connection was blossoming between them. One afternoon, while resting after a long day's work, Andrew decided it was time to talk about what he felt. They had shared so many experiences and overcome so many challenges together that he could no longer hide his feelings. "Laura, there's something I need to tell you," Andrew began with a serious but emotional tone. Laura looked at him, feeling a mix of curiosity and nervousness. "Tell me, Andrew." "You can tell me anything," she responded softly. Andrew took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Laura, since you came into my life, everything has changed for the better. You have been my support, my guide, and my inspiration. Thanks to you, I have found a new reason to live and fight. And in the process, I've realized that I love you. I love you more than I ever thought possible." He confessed, looking directly into her eyes. Laura felt a wave of emotions upon hearing his words. She knew she had developed deep feelings for Andrew, but hearing that he felt the same filled her with indescribable happiness. "Andrew, I love you too. You have been a fundamental part of my life, and together we have created something beautiful. I can't imagine my life without you," she responded, tears of joy in her eyes. Andrew smiled, feeling an immense sense of relief and happiness. He moved closer to Laura and hugged her, feeling that for the first time in a long time, everything in his life was in its place. The following days were filled with new energy and purpose. Laura and Andrew, now not only as partners in their mission but also as a couple, felt stronger and more united than ever. They continued working at New Hope, but also began planning their future together. One weekend, they decided to take a day off and visit the country house Laura had inherited. They wanted to spend some time alone, away from the bustle of the shelter, and enjoy the tranquility and beauty of nature. As they walked through the trails and explored the garden, they talked about their dreams and plans. "I'd love to live here someday, Andrew. This place has a peace and beauty that makes me feel connected to my mother and to life itself," said Laura, looking at the flowers that had begun to bloom. "I feel the same way, Laura. We can make this place our home and continue helping people from here." "It would be a dream come true," Andrew responded, taking her hand. That night, while looking at the stars from the porch, Andrew felt it was the perfect moment to take another step in their relationship. "Laura, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, not just as partners in New Hope, but as a couple, as a family. Will you marry me?" he asked, pulling out a small ring he had been saving. Laura felt her heart fill with overwhelming happiness. Without hesitation, she nodded and replied, "Yes, Andrew. Yes, I want to marry you and build a life together," she said, tears of joy running down her cheeks. They embraced, feeling the immense happiness and love they shared. They knew that their journey together would not always be easy, but they were ready to face any challenge with mutual support and the strength of their love. The news of their engagement was met with joy and celebration at New Hope. The volunteers and community members came together to organize a surprise party full of music, laughter, and good wishes. That night, while celebrating with their friends and loved ones, Laura and Andrew felt more certain than ever of their decision. Their love and commitment were not only a testament to their relationship, but also to the transformation and hope that New Hope had brought to their lives and to the lives of so many others. The news of Laura and Andrew's engagement filled New Hope with a special joy. The couple immersed themselves in the wedding preparations while continuing their work at the shelter. However, planning the wedding was not without challenges and difficult decisions. One morning, while having coffee in the kitchen, Laura and Andrew started discussing the event details. "I was thinking we could have the wedding here on the property, in the garden. It's a significant place for us, and for everyone who has been part of New Hope," Laura suggested, looking at Andrew with a smile.
"That sounds wonderful. This place has a special meaning for us, and it would be perfect for our wedding," Andrew responded, taking her hand.
With heartfelt deliberation, they chose to make their wedding a deeply personal celebration, inviting only their closest friends, beloved family members, and the devoted volunteers of New Hope. Laura and Andrew longed for the occasion to overflow with love, gratitude, and a profound sense of achievement for all they had triumphed over together. Yet, as they immersed themselves in planning their special day, unexpected obstacles began to surface. The joyous news of their engagement and forthcoming marriage caught the eye of the local press, prompting a swarm of journalists to delve into Laura's past. This unwelcome attention stirred up a maelstrom of gossip and speculation within their community. One tranquil afternoon, as Laura meticulously went over the final wedding preparations, her phone rang, shattering the peaceful silence. On the other end, a journalist's voice oozed with insidious curiosity. "Mrs. Smith, we've uncovered details about your time in prison. How do you believe this impacts your role at New Hope and your relationship with Andrew?" he probed, his tone laced with thinly veiled malice. A wave of unease washed over Laura, but she anchored herself in calm determination. "My past is a fragment of my journey, but it does not dictate who I am today. I have poured my heart into rebuilding my life and extending that hope to others. Andrew and I are unwavering in our dedication to our mission at New Hope, and no amount of scrutiny will derail us," she declared with resolute conviction. Even in the face of relentless media probing, Laura's spirit remained unyielding. She and Andrew were steadfast in their belief that their love and shared purpose would outshine any shadows cast by her past, illuminating a future brimming with hope and unwavering commitment. After ending the call, Laura's heart raced with anxiety and worry about the potential repercussions these rumors could have on her life and work. She turned to Andrew, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and frustration. "Andrew, the media is digging into my past. I don't want this to ruin everything we've built or affect New Hope," she confessed, feeling a knot of dread tightening in her chest. Andrew, sensing her distress, took her hand firmly and gazed into her eyes with unwavering determination. "Laura, we will not let this break us. Your past is just a part of your story, not your identity. You are a resilient and compassionate woman who has not only transformed her own life, but also touched countless others. We will confront this together, as we always do," he reassured her with conviction. Determined to address the issue head-on, they decided to call a meeting with the volunteers and community members. They wanted everyone to understand their journey and the true purpose behind New Hope. Gathering their strength, they prepared to be completely transparent with those who supported them. "Dear friends," Laura began, her voice steady but emotional, "we've learned that some journalists are investigating my past. I want to be completely honest with you all. Yes, I was unjustly convicted and spent time in prison. But that chapter does not define who I am today. I have worked tirelessly to redeem myself and to help others find their way. Andrew and I remain steadfastly dedicated to New Hope, and that will never change. Your support means the world to us," she said, her eyes scanning the room, meeting the gaze of each person with sincerity. The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Laura and Andrew stood together, their resolve unshaken, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with the strength of their love and the support of their community. The volunteers and community members responded with resounding applause and heartfelt words of encouragement. They had witnessed the profound positive impact Laura and Andrew had made in their lives and were resolute in their determination to stand by them. "Laura, we're with you. We know how much you've done for all of us, and we won't let this affect you," said one of the volunteers, standing up to embrace her warmly. With this renewed support from their community, Laura and Andrew pressed forward with their wedding preparations. They decided to hire a local wedding planner to assist with the intricate details and ensure everything was perfect for their special day. As the wedding date drew nearer, Laura and Andrew also focused on strengthening their relationship and deepening their mutual commitment. They dedicated more time to each other, sharing their dreams and plans for the future, and collaborating on special projects for new hope. One golden afternoon, while strolling through the vibrant garden, Andrew gently took Laura's hand and led her to a secluded corner adorned with a cascade of flowers and twinkling lights. The setting sun bathed the scene in a warm, ethereal glow, casting a magical ambience over the moment. "Laura," Andrew began, his voice filled with emotion, "this place reminds me of all the beauty and joy we've cultivated together. Despite the challenges we've faced, I want you to know that no matter what obstacles come our way, my love for you will remain steadfast. Together we can overcome anything." Tears welled up in Laura's eyes as she squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with love and gratitude. "Andrew, you've been my rock, my partner in everything. I couldn't have made it this far without you. I promise to stand by your side through every storm and every sunny day for the rest of our lives." As they stood there, surrounded by the enchanting garden, they felt an overwhelming sense of peace and unity. Their love, fortified by the trials they had endured, shone brightly, a beacon of hope and resilience. The future, once shadowed by uncertainty, now gleamed with the promise of countless beautiful moments yet to come. "Laura, this place holds our hearts. It's where we've toiled, dreamed, and created something truly magical. I want you to understand that no matter what life throws our way, I will always stand by you. You are my love, my partner, and my constant source of inspiration," Andrew declared, his eyes brimming with love and devotion. "And you, Andrew, are my unwavering strength. Together we have faced and conquered so many challenges, and I know we will continue to do so. I love you deeply, and I am filled with excitement for the future we will build together," Laura replied, wrapping him in a tight, heartfelt embrace. Finally, the long-awaited wedding day arrived. The garden at New Hope was transformed into a breathtaking wonderland, adorned with vibrant, colorful flowers, soft twinkling lights, and an enchanting atmosphere that felt almost otherworldly. Guests began to arrive, their laughter and joyous congratulations filling the air, creating an ambience of celebration and warmth. Laura, looking radiant in her exquisite white gown, walked towards the altar, her arm linked with Daniel Lopez, who had become a father figure to her. His presence brought her immense comfort and pride. "Laura, my heart swells with pride for you. You've accomplished so much, and it is an honor beyond words to be here with you today," Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. As Laura reached the altar, she felt a surge of love and gratitude. She glanced around at the gathered friends, family, and volunteers, all of whom had played a part in her journey. The garden, a testament to the beauty they had cultivated together, seemed to pulse with life and promise. The ceremony began, and with each vow exchanged, Laura and Andrew's commitment to one another grew ever stronger. Their love, tested by trials and strengthened by triumphs, shone brilliantly, a beacon of hope and resilience for everyone present. The future, once uncertain, now glittered with endless possibilities, illuminated by the love and support that surrounded them. "Thank you, Daniel. Your unwavering support has meant the world to us," Laura responded, her eyes glistening with tears of gratitude. As Laura approached the altar, she saw Andrew waiting for her, his face glowing with love and admiration. The moment their hands met, they felt the profound depth of their connection, a bond forged through love and perseverance. The officiant began the ceremony, speaking eloquently about the power of love, the importance of resilience, and the strength found in unity during challenging times. Laura and Andrew then exchanged their vows, each word resonating with heartfelt emotion and unwavering commitment. "Laura, I vow to love you, respect you, and stand by you through every moment of our life together. You are my guiding light and my hope, and I will forever be by your side," Andrew declared, his voice trembling with emotion. "Andrew, I vow to love you, respect you, and walk alongside you through every step of our journey. You are my source of strength and my inspiration, and together we are unstoppable," Laura responded, her voice choked with tears of joy. Their vows, filled with promises of unwavering love and support, echoed in the hearts of everyone present. The ceremony continued, celebrating the deep and abiding love that Laura and Andrew shared, a love that had been tested and proven strong. As they sealed their vows with a kiss, the garden erupted in applause, the air filled with joy and celebration. The future ahead seemed bright and boundless, illuminated by their love and the unwavering support of their friends and family. This day marked not just the beginning of their married life, but also a testament to their enduring resilience and the unbreakable bond they shared. After the vows, the officiant declared Laura and Andrew husband and wife. The couple kissed, sealing their love and commitment while the guests applauded and celebrated. The reception was a joyful celebration, full of music, dancing, and emotional speeches. Friends and family shared stories and memories, toasting to Laura and Andrew's happiness and future. That night, as they retired to their room, Laura and Andrew sat on the porch, contemplating the stars. "Today has been nothing short of perfect, Andrew. I couldn't have dreamed of a more beautiful day," Laura murmured, resting her head gently on his shoulder. "Absolutely, it's been incredible. And what's even more exciting is that this is just the beginning of our journey together. There's an entire world out there waiting for us to explore, and so many adventures yet to come," Andrew replied, enveloping her in a tender embrace. With hearts full of hope and determination, they continued to nurture their dream of new hope, their love providing a rock-solid foundation upon which to build a future brimming with endless possibilities and happiness. As the morning sun cast a golden glow over New Hope, it reflected the joy and love that permeated the place. Laura and Andrew, now newlyweds, woke up each day with a renewed sense of purpose and vitality. Life had granted them a precious second chance, and they were resolved to make every moment count. In the months following their wedding, the shelter blossomed like never before. Laura and Andrew poured their hearts into creating an environment of healing and growth for everyone who found their way to New Hope. Each success story, each reclaimed smile, stood as a testament to the boundless dedication and love they had invested in their mission. One serene afternoon, as Laura and Andrew meandered through the garden, they took a moment to reflect on all they had accomplished and the profound lessons they had learned along the way. "We've traveled such a long and winding road, Andrew. From battling our personal demons to establishing this sanctuary, every step has taught us something invaluable," Laura said, her eyes glistening with emotion as she admired the flowers blooming around them. Andrew nodded, a look of deep contentment on his face. "Indeed, Laura, every challenge, every triumph has shaped us into who we are today, and together we have created something truly extraordinary." The garden, vibrant with life and color, symbolized their journey, a journey of resilience, love, and unwavering commitment. Laura and Andrew knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it hand in hand, their hearts intertwined, ready to embrace whatever came next with courage and grace. "Yes, Laura, and I think the most important lesson is that no matter how dark the path seems, there is always hope if we are willing to fight for it. Our story is a testament to the strength of love and resilience," Andrew responded, taking her hand and squeezing it gently. Laura nodded, feeling a deep surge of gratitude for everything they had conquered together. She recalled the bleak days in prison, the relentless struggle to find employment, and how she had drawn strength from the unwavering support of people like Elena. Now that hard-earned strength was her driving force to uplift others. "We've learned that the past does not define us. What truly matters is how we choose to move forward and what we do with our experiences," Laura said with firm conviction. Andrew smiled, his eyes reflecting the journey of recovery and transformation he had undergone. Exactly. I've realized that despite facing challenges and losses, we can always find a way to turn our pain into something positive. And with the right support, we can overcome anything," he added, his voice filled with heartfelt sincerity. Determined to share these profound reflections, they decided to address the volunteers and residents of New Hope in a special meeting. They wanted everyone to grasp that each individual possessed the power to transform their life, no matter how dire the circumstances. During the meeting, Laura and Andrew stood before the gathered crowd, ready to share their journey and the invaluable lessons they had learned. "Dear friends," Laura began, her voice resonating with passion, "today we want to remind you that each of you holds incredible strength within. No matter where you come from or what challenges you face, there is always a way to find hope and create a better future." Andrew continued, his words brimming with encouragement. "Our story is an example that with love, support, and perseverance, we can overcome any obstacle. New Hope is not just a physical place, but a symbol of the possibility of a new beginning for everyone." The audience erupted into applause, and soon, many began sharing their own stories of struggle and triumph. The meeting transformed into a celebration of human resilience and the power of community. The air was filled with hope and a renewed sense of purpose. That night, after the meeting, Laura and Andrew sat on their porch, enjoying the tranquil ambience of the place they had built together. "I feel we have fulfilled our purpose, Andrew. We have created something beautiful that will continue helping many people," Laura said, gazing at the stars twinkling above. "Yes, Laura. And the best part is that this is just the beginning. New Hope will continue to grow and change lives, thanks to all who believe in our vision," Andrew responded, wrapping his arms around her in a loving embrace. They sat there in the peaceful night, their hearts full, knowing that the seeds of hope and love they had planted would continue to flourish, bringing light to those in need and creating a legacy of resilience and compassion. Laura and Andrew's story was not only a tale of profound love and personal triumph, but also a powerful testament to the importance of resilience, unconditional love, and the transformative power of turning pain into strength. They had discovered that, despite the challenges and dark moments life throws their way, there is always a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, provided they were willing to seek it and work together to reach it. Laura's journey from the confines of prison to becoming a respected leader and mentor at New Hope served as a powerful reminder that the past does not dictate the future. The strength and support she received from people like Elena and Andrew had been instrumental in helping her rebuild her life, turning her into a beacon of inspiration for others who sought to overcome their own adversities. Andrew, on his part, learned that personal tragedies do not have to define one's destiny. With love, support, and unwavering determination, he had transformed his pain into a mission of healing and assistance for others. Over time, New Hope became a symbol of renewal and possibility, attracting individuals from all walks of life who were seeking a fresh start. Together, Laura and Andrew continued their work, always mindful of the lessons they had learned and the immense power of love and compassion. Their story became a source of inspiration for everyone, a narrative of love, redemption, and the extraordinary human capacity to find light even in the darkest times. It demonstrated that with hope and perseverance, anything is achievable.